If you're seeing this tonight, it's not by accident. Something called you here quietly, like a signal traveling through the noise of your day, seeking a receiver ready to listen. What if I told you that everything you've been sensing lately, the strange timing, the repeating numbers, the sudden fatigue followed by inexplicable clarity, isn't random at all? It's communication, arriving from the still point beneath everything you think of as reality. Not from outside you, but through you. The 0-point field isn't some far-off scientific theory. It's the silence that has been waiting inside you to be remembered. Tonight's message is simple, yet it changes everything. You've been taught that life happens to you, that cause and effect move in straight lines. But there's another current flowing beneath those lines, a field of pure potential, responsive to awareness itself. It's been whispering to you through coincidences and pauses, through the subtle electricity that runs beneath each breath. Every moment you ignore that whisper, life feels heavier, denser, more mechanical. Every moment you turn toward it, even slightly, the air itself begins to shimmer with meaning. If you've been feeling the strange weight of repetition, like you're living the same patterns, the same arguments, the same anxieties dressed in different disguises, this is the moment that pattern begins to unravel, because that loop you've been trapped in isn't punishment. It's a signal echoing through time, asking you to notice the place where thought ends and awareness begins. The 0-point field lives exactly there, in the infinitesimal pause before the next inhale, before the next decision, before the next wave of thought. Most people rush through it, terrified of stillness. But you've found your way here because something inside you is ready to listen differently. Imagine the universe as a vast sea of frequencies. Every thought, emotion, and action sends a ripple across that surface. Most humans keep splashing, trying to force the waves to move their way. But the secret isn't in splashing harder, it's in remembering you are the water itself. When you stop resisting your own current, the entire field reorganizes around your coherence. That's what this message is. An invitation to stop trying to manage the waves and start recognizing your power as the silent stillness beneath them. You've been sensing it already in the quiet between sounds, in the moments when time slows, in that strange awareness that watches even as the world keeps spinning. That observer within you isn't passive. It's the bridge between your personal consciousness and the field that births galaxies. When you learn to open to it not with effort, but with quiet attention, you begin to receive information not as thought, but as resonance. This is why, right now, your body might feel a subtle vibration, or your heart a gentle pull toward stillness. It's not imagination, it's alignment. Tonight, as you listen, something deeper than your mind will begin to awaken. The remembrance that you are not separate from the field, you are the field observing itself. The breath you're taking now is the universe drawing itself into form, through you. And when you exhale, you return that form to potential. Every inhale creates, every exhale releases. Every pause between them is the 0-point field, the silent midpoint where infinite possibilities rest, waiting for your awareness to choose one. So before we begin, take one slow breath. Inhale gently through the nose. Feel the air glide across your inner landscape. Hold not with tension, but with reverence for the stillness that lives there. Then exhale, slowly, as if releasing centuries of noise. That space between breaths is where we'll journey tonight. Stay with it. Stay open. The signal is already here. You've probably felt it, that sense of circling the same scenery, even as the calendar insists time is passing. You change jobs, relationships, cities, yet somehow the inner landscape stays the same. The characters may shift, but the theme remains. This isn't failure. It's physics. You've been living inside a closed feedback loop of perception, one that keeps confirming what it already believes. It feels real because it is real to the observer who keeps recreating it. The loop begins so subtly that you rarely see its architecture. It starts with a trigger, an email you didn't expect, a tone in someone's voice, a memory rising uninvited. Instantly, your breath changes, the rhythm shortens, the chest tightens, the ancient alarm system stirs. From that physiological signal, meaning blooms. They don't respect me. I'm not safe. This always happens. That meaning shapes your state. And from that state you act, defend, withdraw, prove, postpone. The action produces evidence, and that evidence, faithfully interpreted through the same lens that birthed it, confirms the belief that started the cycle. You call it reality, but it's resonance, an echo bouncing between mind and field. Over time, these loops solidify into what you call personality, preference, destiny. You may call it a pattern, or blame it on karma or childhood. But beneath all those labels, it's the same mechanism of attention collapsing potential into repetition. Your consciousness, acting as observer, keeps choosing familiar frequencies because the unfamiliar feels like danger. The nervous system prefers predictability over freedom. Even pain, when known, feels safer than the vast unknown. That's why the same lessons arrive in new disguises, each time louder, each time closer, until awareness finally interrupts the circuit. In the field of potential, every possibility exists simultaneously. But you can only perceive what matches your internal broadcast. The loop keeps you tuned to a narrow bandwidth of reality, a small station on the infinite dial. Every thought is a frequency. Every emotional state a transmitter. When your system is noisy with judgment, fear, or self-doubt, you can't hear the subtler signals of truth beneath it. The universe doesn't withhold anything. You're just caught in static. Modern life amplifies that static. Constant stimulation, endless scrolling, the unbroken hum of urgency. These all keep the mind looping at high frequency, rarely touching stillness. Without pauses, there's no access point for new information. You end up reliving yesterday's consciousness in today's body. That's why you can feel exhausted even after rest. Your biology is functioning, but your awareness is trapped in old code. The zero-point field hasn't vanished. You've just forgotten how to tune to it. What you call stress is often the body's protest against this loop. Anxiety is the nervous system screaming for coherence, for a breath that reaches beyond survival rhythm. Depression is consciousness tiring of the same old script, longing for a rewrite. Even boredom, the modern epidemic of emptiness, is awareness, pressing its face against the glass of possibility, whispering, "There's more than this, so why can't you simply choose differently?" Because the chooser itself is entangled with what it's choosing. The mind that tries to fix the loop is made of the same data that sustains it. You've been trying to escape the maze using the map drawn by the maze. That's why change feels temporary. Why breakthroughs collapse back into the familiar gravity of old emotion. The observer hasn't changed frequency. It's just rearranged the furniture of the dream. But awareness has a backdoor, the breath. Every automatic inhale and exhale is a chance to break identification with the loop's rhythm. The instant you notice the breath instead of being it, you create a microgap. In that 0.3-second window, reality becomes fluid again. The loop can't survive your attention when it's anchored in stillness. Observation itself rewires the pattern, because awareness without judgment is a solvent. It dissolves what it sees without resistance. Think of your habitual reality as a hologram projected by your nervous system. The projector isn't broken, it's just replaying an old reel. The reel is your habitual emotional signature. When you breathe shallowly from anxiety, the field reads that vibration as your chosen program and mirrors it back. That's why life seems to repeat. The field isn't punishing you, it's obeying the data you send. At some point, the exhaustion of trying to fix the hologram from inside the hologram becomes too heavy. That's the beginning of awakening. You realize the problem isn't the scene you're in. It's the unconscious way you've been perceiving it. The crisis isn't external, it's perceptual. And that crisis is sacred, because it's the moment the observer begins to awaken inside the observed. If this message has found you, it's likely because that awakening is stirring in you now. The repetition has done its job. It's worn out your fascination with the loop, leaving only the quiet curiosity of what exists beyond it. The zero-point field isn't waiting somewhere distant. It's the stillness you touch in the pause after surrender. The pattern breaks, not when you conquer it, but when you become conscious of the breath that sustains it. So notice your next inhale, not to fix, not to analyze, but to feel how awareness rides the breath like a bridge across dimensions. That bridge leads from the mind's turbulence into the calm, radiant expanse of possibility. That's where we're going next. From the loop into the field. From noise into coherence. From surviving into creation. The next breath begins the journey. In quantum language, they call it the observer effect. The idea that the very act of observation changes what is being observed. But let's translate that into human experience. When you truly see something, it shifts. Not because your eyes altered the molecules, but because your awareness reorganized the field of meaning around it. A moment ago, it was random. Now, it's relationship. Awareness is the bridge between probability and experience. Imagine reality as a vast ocean of potentials, waves of possibility, not yet formed into events. Each thought, each emotion, each breath creates interference patterns across this sea. When your awareness lands gently on one of those waves, it collapses into form a conversation, a coincidence, a choice. The ocean doesn't decide which wave becomes real. You do, through the quality of your observation. And that quality depends on your state. When your attention is scattered, anxious, or reactive, your observation is fragmented, producing a chaotic interference pattern. But when you rest in coherence, when body, heart, and breath move in harmony, the wave becomes clear, and reality begins to organize itself with elegance. This is why certain people seem to live in constant synchronicity, while others encounter endless resistance. It's not luck. It's coherence. Coherence is the alignment between your inner vibration and the frequency of the field that surrounds you. When you're coherent, your emotional waves harmonize with the field's rhythm. You stop pushing. You start resonating. The universe doesn't respond to your words or wishes. It responds to your resonance. Think about those rare moments when everything felt luminous, the way sunlight scattered through leaves on a morning when time slowed, or how music seemed to dissolve the edges of thought until you became pure presence. In those moments, you weren't trying to manifest anything. You weren't chasing outcomes. You were simply being. That state of pure presence is coherence in motion, the living observer effect. Your awareness, undivided and clear, aligned every particle of experience into harmony. That's the zero-point field, revealing itself through feeling, not concept. The zero-point field is often described as vacuum energy, but it's anything but empty. It's the fullness before creation, the silence that hums with infinite potential. Every atom in your body vibrates in relationship with that field. It's not something you tap into. It's what you already are before thought carves boundaries around it. The field is pure neutrality, no judgment, no agenda. It mirrors whatever vibration you bring. When you meet it with confusion, it multiplies possibilities of confusion. When you meet it with clarity, it organizes into order. When you meet it with gratitude, it amplifies coherence across your entire system. Science calls it probability density. Mystics call it divine potential. The language doesn't matter. The experience does. When your breath slows, your heartbeat synchronizes, and your awareness softens into stillness, the invisible structure of reality begins to respond. You can feel it not as a miracle, but as a natural law. The electrons in your cells hum in resonance with the field's subtlest frequencies, producing light patterns that scientists like Fritz Popp called biophotons. When your emotions settle, those photons become more coherent. You literally glow with order. That glow isn't metaphoric, it's the body's signature of alignment. This is why you sometimes sense someone entering the room before they speak. You're reading coherence. It's why a peaceful person can quiet chaos without a word. They're broadcasting an ordered field. You do this constantly, unconsciously. Every emotion you feel, resentment, awe, serenity, is an instruction to the field, telling it how to configure itself around you. The field listens without judgment, obeying the frequency you stabilize in. When you realize this, responsibility transforms into empowerment. You stop asking why life happens to you, and begin asking what state you were broadcasting when life reflected this moment through you. The field is impartial. It has no preference for your comfort or discomfort. Its only law is resonance. When you oscillate in fear, it becomes an echo chamber of survival. When you breathe into stillness, it becomes an orchestra of possibility. Coherence doesn't mean constant calm. It means inner alignment amidst movement, like the still axis within a spinning gyroscope. Even in chaos, your center holds. When the body, heart, and mind move together, you become transparent to the field, like a clear prism allowing light to pass through without distortion. That's the observer effect at the emotional level. You become a conduit instead of a barrier. Let's return to the breath. Each inhale gathers the wave of potential. Each exhale releases what no longer aligns. The brief pause between them is the zero point itself, the place where all possibilities rest before observation calls them into form. If you want to experience the field, you don't have to seek altered states. You simply have to notice that pause without rushing past it. In that instant, you meet the creative silence that births worlds. When you observe life through coherence, something subtle yet revolutionary happens. Time softens. You notice that the past and future aren't linear tracks but ripples extending from your present vibration. Shift your frequency now, and the entire network of probabilities rearranges. That's why forgiveness can rewrite a timeline. That's why gratitude can summon synchronicity. The field reorganizes around your current coherence, not your history. In this way, the observer effect isn't a cold equation, it's an intimate dance between your awareness and existence itself. You're not just watching life, you're sculpting it with every breath, every thought, every act of gentle noticing. The 0-point field doesn't demand faith, it invites participation. Each time you remember to breathe consciously, you're re-entering the laboratory of creation not to manipulate, but to remember. So tonight, as you listen, feel the vibration beneath the words. Notice how the silence between them seems alive, how your own awareness pulses with quiet electricity. That subtle hum is the field responding to your attention. You're already in dialogue with it. Every heartbeat is a reply. And as you continue, that dialogue will deepen from understanding into experience, from theory into embodiment. Because the field doesn't want your belief, it wants your presence. Long before anyone spoke of particles or fields, ancient civilizations understood this principle through symbols, not formulas. They didn't call it the observer effect, they called it divine alignment. They painted it in temples, sang it into chants, carved it into stone so future generations might remember what language would one day forget. That consciousness itself is the breath of creation. In Egypt, initiates spoke of Ma'at, the cosmic order that keeps the sun rising, the stars balanced, and the heart light enough to pass through the underworld. To live in Ma'at wasn't about obeying rules. It was about maintaining resonance with truth. The Egyptians believed that every thought, every word, and every breath left an imprint on the invisible scales of reality. When your inner world fell into discord, the outer world reflected that imbalance. Crops withered, floods rose, relationships decayed, but when your heart vibrated with harmony, the world rearranged into coherence. You weren't merely living in the cosmos, you were co-tuning it. At dawn, priests would stand before the Nile and breathe deliberately, believing that each breath echoed the first act of creation. When the god Atum rose from the waters of chaos and spoke the world into being, the breath wasn't prayer, it was participation. They knew the space between inhale and exhale mirrored the silence between worlds, the 0 point from which both matter and meaning emerge. To stand in that stillness was to remember the original rhythm: expansion, pause, contraction, pause, the cosmic heartbeat found in every atom and every lung. Across the desert, another tradition gazed not at stone but at sky. In early Buddhist texts, the practice of anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, was described as a doorway to liberation. The Buddha taught that the entire universe could be observed in a single breath: the arising of form, the dissolving of form, and the quiet space in between. Clouds drift, yet the sky remains untouched. Thoughts arise, yet awareness remains unclouded. To watch one's breath without grasping or resisting was to sit in the center of the cosmic wheel, unmoved as everything turned around you. That was the 0-point field expressed through the body emptiness, yet radiant with potential. The mystics of the Hebrew tradition carried this same understanding in a single word: ruach. It means both breath and spirit. To breathe was literally to commune with the divine. In the book of Genesis, creation begins not with matter but with breath moving over the waters. The Kabbalists later described this as the emanation of Ein Sof, the boundless, unknowable essence condensing into the 10 Sephiroth of the Tree of Life. Between each sphere, they said, exists a veil, a pause, a hidden interval where the infinite folds into the finite. Those veils were their version of the quantum gap, the 0-point field disguised as silence. To cross those thresholds, one didn't climb upward but descended inward, through breath, into the still point where spirit and form kiss. Different cultures, different names, same geometry of being. The Egyptian sun disk, the Buddhist lotus, the Kabbalistic tree, all depict one truth: existence oscillates between expansion and return, sound and silence, motion and stillness. When you move in rhythm with that pulse, your life aligns with the order of the cosmos. When you fight it, life becomes noise. These metaphors weren't superstition. They were sophisticated maps of consciousness. The ancients lacked microscopes, but they had the capacity to feel the field. Their temples were instruments of resonance. The high ceilings and symmetrical halls of Karnak weren't just architecture, they were acoustic chambers designed to amplify coherence. Chant within them, and the walls themselves vibrated, echoing your frequency back in multiplied harmony. The participant became both singer and song, observer and field united in sound. You don't need a temple of stone to experience this now. Your own body is a living shrine built of sacred geometry, lungs as twin pyramids, spine as the tree of life, heart as the central altar. Each breath is an ancient ceremony renewing your covenant with existence. When you breathe shallowly, you worship distraction. When you breathe deeply, you honor the field. Consider the symbol of the Ankh, the Egyptian key of life. Its loop represents eternity, its crossbar, the intersection of heaven and earth. The loop is your inhale, drawing spirit downward. The bar is your exhale, offering matter back to spirit. The point where they meet, that is the 0 point, the eternal moment of creation. Every time you pause between breaths, you stand at that crossroads, holding the key to worlds. The ancients didn't separate science from soul. For them, energy, breath, and consciousness were one continuum. They understood that to open quietly to the field wasn't poetic suggestion. It was literal alignment. The still heart was their compass, the coherent breath their navigation. They taught that when you could remain still in the center of change, you would see the fabric of reality tremble and reorganize in your favor. You may not wear a linen robe or chant under the desert stars, but you can return to the same understanding tonight. The temple doors were never locked. The keys have always been in your lungs. Each breath is an initiation, each pause a threshold, each exhale a release. When you enter that rhythm consciously, you awaken the lineage that runs through every mystic, every scientist, every being who has ever dared to meet the unknown with presence instead of fear. In a moment, we'll step from myth into method. You'll learn how to feel the field not as theory, but as direct experience. But before that, pause again. Notice the breath. Between inhale and exhale, sense a faint hum, the same silence that priests, monks, and mystics listen to across millennia. That silence is still here, unchanged, waiting for you to remember that you, too, are part of the sacred rhythm of creation. Let's step now from understanding into experience. You don't need a temple, mantra, or belief system to access the 0 point field. All you need is the willingness to pause, to listen to the breath, not as background noise but as the living bridge between awareness and the universe. Find a position that feels natural. You can sit upright with the spine relaxed but awake, or lie down if your body asks for rest. Let your hands rest wherever they land easily. The goal here isn't posture, it's presence. For the next few minutes, we'll use breath as both anchor and gateway. Begin by noticing the simple act of breathing. Don't control it yet. Just observe the gentle tide. Air flowing in, air flowing out. Imagine each inhale as a wave rising toward shore, and each exhale as that same wave returning to the sea. Between the two lies the moment we're after, the stillness just before the water changes direction. That pause is the 0 point. Now, allow the breath to deepen slightly, but keep it effortless. Inhale through the nose for a slow count of 4. Hold softly for a count of 2, not to trap air, but to touch stillness. Then exhale through the mouth for a count of 6, letting your body empty like sand slipping through fingers. At the bottom, pause again for 2 counts. 4, 2, 6, 2. That rhythm opens coherence between breath and heartbeat. Try 3 cycles now, eyes closed if possible. As you breathe, bring awareness to the chest. Feel it expand, contract, and expand again. Notice any tension, warmth, or vibration. This isn't about fixing, it's about witnessing. The observer effect begins here, attention without interference. Whatever you notice, imagine offering it space. Space for the body to unfold. Space for the energy to move. Space for the story to loosen. If thoughts arise, what's for dinner? The email you forgot. A self-critique, see them as birds crossing a wide sky. You are the sky, not the birds. They pass. They always do. Return to the pause between breaths. That is your still point, your personal doorway into the 0 point field. In that pause, notice something subtle. Awareness doesn't end. Even when the breath stops for that brief instant, awareness remains, steady and luminous. That steady awareness is the field experiencing itself through you. You don't enter the field. You remember that you were never outside it. Now, gently expand attention beyond the body. Imagine your breath radiating as light, extending a few feet around you. With each inhale, draw coherence from the field. With each exhale, broadcast coherence back into it. See the exchange as a rhythmic glow, soft, violet-white, pulsing with intelligence. There's no need to visualize perfectly. The intention is enough. This is the language of the field, felt alignment, not words. Notice how the air feels different now. Thicker, perhaps. More alive. You may sense subtle tingling, or a feeling of warmth along the spine or heart. If not, that's fine. The field isn't measured by sensation but by quiet awareness. The quieter you become, the louder the universe speaks. Now, let's anchor this practice into daily life. When you wake in the morning, before touching your phone, place one hand on your chest and feel a single, conscious breath. That moment sets your day's frequency. Before an important conversation, exhale fully and find the gap. Speak from that stillness. When anxiety arises, lengthen your exhale until your body remembers it's safe. When joy arrives, breathe it deeper, so your cells record the memory of coherence. The field responds to repetition. It reads rhythm, like scripture. Here's a micro protocol you can use anytime. Notice, pause, breathe, anchor. Notice the trigger or thought. Pause for half a second before reacting. Breathe consciously once. Anchor the new state with awareness of the body. That's all. 3 seconds that rewrite entire timelines. If emotions surface during practice, sadness, anger, even joy, welcome them. They're not obstacles. They're echoes leaving the system. Your breath is sweeping dust from forgotten rooms. Each exhale is a clearing. Each inhale, a rebuilding. Remember, this practice is educational and experiential. It's not a substitute for medical or therapeutic care. It's a way of aligning consciousness with calm awareness. If you feel discomfort, return to gentle breathing. You're safe here. This isn't about achieving a mystical state. It's about becoming intimate with the quiet intelligence already guiding your life. Now, let the breath return to its natural rhythm. Feel how the edges of your thoughts have softened, how the body feels slightly more spacious. This is coherence, subtle, steady, available. You haven't transcended reality. You've tuned it. The 0-point field isn't an escape. It's home. In a few moments, we'll explore how this alignment reshapes your everyday world, how it transforms stories of survival into acts of creation. But before moving on, breathe once more with full presence. Inhale deeply, hold the pause, and recognize the silence between breaths isn't empty. It's you before form, before identity, before time. The still point where all realities begin. There's a moment in every awakening when theory collapses into choice. You can sense it now, the faint shimmer of possibility that stands beside habit. You've learned how perception loops create repetition, and how breath reopens the gate to the field. But here's where transformation becomes real. When you shift from witnessing your reality to designing it, one state at a time. This is the turn from victim to creator, from reaction to orchestration. Most people live as though experience is weather, something that happens to them, unpredictable and external. But what if emotion itself is the climate system of your life? Every thought releases a signal, every feeling a pressure front, shaping the conditions around you. You can't stop storms from forming, but you can become the calm eye within them. That calm eye is the observer state, the center that doesn't resist reality but reorganizes it. Let's explore how this operates in 3 familiar worlds: money, relationship, and leadership. Money. You've been told money equals safety, control, freedom. But energetically, money is feedback, a mirror of trust and flow. When fear of scarcity dominates, your field constricts. You act from tension, and the universe reads that contraction as a command: limit resources. Every transaction then reinforces lack. But when you breathe coherence into the idea of exchange, when you see money as energy moving through, not toward you, the field expands. Opportunities appear, not because you chase them, but because your frequency signals sufficiency. Before sending an invoice, taking a job, or making a purchase, pause. Inhale until your chest feels spacious. Exhale the story of not enough. That moment of 0-point neutrality encodes abundance into your actions. The numbers will follow the signal. Relationships. Each conversation is an interference pattern. 2 fields meeting, harmonizing or clashing based on resonance. When you enter dialogue from defensiveness, the other person mirrors defense. When you breathe before speaking, coherence enters the space like invisible architecture. Try this. Before responding in conflict, let your awareness drop from the head to the heart. Feel the inhale rise through your chest. Then pause just half a second before you exhale your words. That pause is where compassion enters. It's the quantum gap where love reclaims the narrative. You'll notice the tone of the conversation change instantly, as if the entire room exhales with you. The field recognizes coherence faster than logic. Leadership. Whether you guide a team, a family, or your own future, leadership isn't control, it's frequency management. The most powerful leaders aren't the loudest. They're the most stable fields in the room, others attuned to their calm as if it were gravity. Before making a decision, visualize yourself as that mountain we spoke of, unmoved, yet alive. Inhale up the spine, pause, exhale through the soles of your feet, grounding intention into the earth. Speak only when your breath is steady. Action taken from that coherence influences outcomes far beyond words. People trust what they feel more than what they hear. Now step back and see the pattern. In every arena, the sequence is the same. State, story, strategy. Most people start with strategy, chasing better plans without shifting their inner signal. But the field doesn't read plans, it reads frequency. Change your state first, and the story you tell about life reorganizes. Change the story, and strategy arises naturally. This is creation from coherence rather than control. Picture two musicians, one playing louder to drown out chaos, the other tuning quietly until the entire orchestra aligns with their note. The second musician isn't passive, they're masterful. You're that musician now. Every breath tunes the instrument of your reality. When tuned, even silence becomes music. As coherence strengthens, the external world begins to rearrange in subtle ways. Emails arrive with unexpected opportunities. People who once felt distant soften toward you. Problems dissolve without confrontation. Skeptics call it coincidence, but you'll recognize it as resonance. The universe is matching your frequency, note for note. The shift from victim to creator isn't about denial, it's about authorship. A victim asks, "Why is this happening to me?" A creator asks, "What state within me invited this reflection, and what new signal do I wish to send?" The first question breeds analysis. The second births alignment. One feeds the loop, the other rewrites the script. Yet this new power requires humility. You'll still face challenges, not as punishment but as mirrors revealing residual dissonance. Each difficult moment is an invitation to breathe coherence into distortion. Instead of asking how to escape discomfort, ask how to meet it with awareness. Your breath becomes the tuning fork. When you stay coherent in the presence of chaos, the field learns a new pattern through you. Notice how this isn't about perfection or constant positivity. Coherence doesn't mean you never feel fear, anger, or doubt. It means those emotions pass through without anchoring. You become porous to experience. Feelings arise, are witnessed, and dissolve back into neutrality. That transparency makes you magnetic. The less resistance you hold, the faster the field flows through you. Think of your life now as a constellation rather than a timeline, each moment a point of light connected by the thread of your awareness. Every breath you take in coherence strengthens those connections, allowing new patterns of possibility to emerge. Where there once was randomness, there is rhythm. Where there once was fragmentation, there is flow. The turn has already begun. You're no longer trying to fix your reality, you're learning to conduct it. The baton is your breath, the orchestra the field itself. And as you refine this art, you'll notice an ancient truth made visible. Creation doesn't start with effort. It starts with stillness so coherent that the universe has no choice but to sing in tune with you. In a moment, we'll step even deeper into that stillness to see how it restores dignity, meaning, and belonging to every breath you take. But for now, pause again. Let your next inhale remind you that transformation doesn't happen through striving. It happens through remembering who you are. The silent composer behind the music of worlds. What remains when striving stops? What endures after the self you've been defending begins to dissolve? When you've observed the breath, witnessed the loops, felt the coherence, what's left is something quietly extraordinary. Dignity. The dignity of being, not as an achievement but as an inherent truth. The ancients called it divine image, Buddha nature, Atman. Modern physics calls it the ground state, but here, now, it's simply the felt recognition that you belong to existence because you are existence aware of itself. This realization doesn't lift you out of humanity, it roots you deeper into it. You start to notice beauty in the smallest gestures. A stranger's half smile, a child's laughter echoing down a street, the way sunlight touches an old brick wall. These aren't background moments. They're confirmations from the field that coherence is active. Each time you slow enough to perceive them, reality whispers, "You're home." Stillness, once feared as emptiness, now reveals itself as art. You begin to see that stillness isn't absence, it's the sculptor's space between chisel strikes. It's what gives shape to form, rhythm to sound, meaning to motion. Every pause in conversation, every heartbeat between decisions, is an invisible brushstroke painting your life. The more aware you become of these pauses, the more you recognize that stillness has always been the creative power behind movement. The zero-point field isn't some distant scientific mystery, it's the living canvas of this very breath. Agency transforms too. You no longer confuse force with power. True power feels like gentleness, the kind that bends without breaking, that listens before it moves. From this place, even simple actions become profound. Making tea becomes communion. Listening to another person becomes prayer. Breathing in traffic becomes participation in cosmic order. This isn't exaggeration, it's the quiet revolution of perception that turns ordinary life into sacred dialogue. You start to understand that meaning isn't manufactured through grand purpose. It's revealed through intimacy with the present moment. Meaning happens naturally when awareness meets life without resistance. You could say the universe has been waiting for your cooperation all along. It didn't need your perfection, it needed your presence. And what about belonging? For most of your life, you've sought it in faces, groups, successes, or approval. But now you sense a belonging that precedes relationship, a belonging to the field itself. You realize that the loneliness you've carried wasn't isolation from others, it was separation from stillness. When you return to that stillness, you feel connected to everything, not through concept but through resonance. The tree, the passerby, the city skyline at dusk all vibrate with the same awareness breathing through you. This understanding doesn't make life frictionless. You'll still face uncertainty, loss, and moments of confusion. But now, beneath them all, you sense continuity. Even when clouds gather, the sky remains clear behind them. You are that sky, vast, receptive, untouched. The dramas of life become weather passing through your atmosphere. You participate fully, love deeply, create boldly, but no longer mistake the passing storm for the essence of who you are. Philosophers have tried for centuries to name this state: equanimity, authenticity, enlightenment, but the words always fall short because they describe what can only be lived. To be fully human is to balance between infinite and finite, to feel the ache of existence and the grace of awareness in the same breath. You don't transcend the world, you illuminate it from within. So what now? You live, but you live differently. You speak from coherence rather than reaction. You act from clarity rather than fear. You rest not because you're tired, but because stillness itself calls you to listen. You move not to prove, but to express the quiet intelligence flowing through you. You begin to embody what the sages meant when they said, "Be still and know." Not think know. The kind of knowing that hums beneath words, the kind that can't be taught, only remembered. Perhaps the greatest freedom you'll discover is the freedom to be ordinary without losing reverence. You'll cook, drive, work, and laugh, but every act will carry a subtle luminosity, as though the universe itself were breathing with you. Because it is. The field never left. You simply became coherent enough to feel it. Remember this truth. The universe doesn't measure you by your achievements. It experiences itself through your awareness. Each time you return to stillness, you rejoin that cosmic artistry, becoming both participant and masterpiece. The old division between sacred and mundane dissolves. The breath of God, the hum of atoms, the silence in your chest, they are all one vibration, waiting to be recognized as such. In this recognition, you no longer seek awakening as an event. You see it as a rhythm, awakening, forgetting, remembering, returning. The field doesn't demand permanence, it invites practice. Every moment you notice the breath is an act of creation. Every return to stillness is a new genesis. So if tonight's message leaves you with anything, let it be this. Stillness is not the end of movement, it's the womb of it. When you stand in that stillness, you stand at the 0 point of possibility, the quiet origin where all futures begin. And in that place, you realize that you were never waiting for the universe to choose you. The universe was waiting for you to become quiet enough to hear it say, "You've always belonged." Now, as the story nears its close, you'll be guided through a simple ritual to anchor this state into your body, so it doesn't drift away with words. Because the field doesn't respond to theory, it responds to vibration. The next breath you take can encode this truth into your cells. The next silence can make it real. Before we part tonight, let's anchor everything you've remembered not as thought, but as frequency. The mind learns by repetition, but the field learns by rhythm. So we'll close not with explanation, but with breath, because breath is the signal, and you are the transmitter. Sit comfortably again, or stand if that feels more alive. Soften the shoulders. Let the jaw unclench. Close your eyes if you wish. Now bring attention to the center of your chest, the quiet point behind the sternum where breath and heartbeat meet. That's your internal 0 point, the place where heaven and earth intersect through your awareness. We'll take 3 coherent breaths together. Each one will encode the intention to live from stillness, to act from coherence, to remember the field. First breath. Inhale slowly through the nose. Feel the air entering not only your lungs, but your entire being. As you pause at the top, sense the stillness. This is the 0 point field breathing with you. Exhale gently through the mouth. Let go of today's noise, the mental static, the small worries. Imagine them dissolving into silence. Second breath. Inhale again, and as you do, draw in clarity. Let it rise up your spine like light. Hold for a moment, just long enough to feel the heartbeat steady in your chest. Then exhale through the heart itself, radiating calm outward into the room, into the city, into the collective field of humanity. Third breath. Inhale, and this time, breathe in belonging. Feel the quiet truth that you are woven into everything that exists. In that brief pause before exhaling, notice, awareness itself is breathing you. Now exhale softly, releasing any boundary that separates you from the field. Rest in the afterglow of that release. Now, let a single word arise within you. Don't think it, feel it. The word might be peace, trust, presence, courage, or love. Whatever appears first is perfect. That word is your personal frequency, your signature within the quantum field. Whisper it once, gently, as though teaching the universe your tone. Now say, softly or silently, I choose to, your word, as the observer, not as the struggler, not as the seeker, as the observer, the steady consciousness behind all change. Feel how the air around you seems to listen. The room feels slightly larger, lighter, more alive. That's not imagination, that's coherence forming. The field has received your signal. It will begin responding immediately, reorganizing life to match the vibration you've just broadcast. If resistance arises tomorrow, remember this moment. 3 coherent breaths can return you here instantly. 1 conscious pause between inhale and exhale is enough to reopen the gate. Don't chase the state, invite it. Stillness doesn't need force, it needs permission. You might forget. You might fall back into noise, into reaction, into speed. That's all right. Forgetting is part of remembering. Each time you notice you've drifted, you've already returned. Each conscious breath is redemption. Now, open your eyes if they were closed. Look around your space. The same walls, the same air, yet somehow it feels different, softer, quieter, more intentional. That difference isn't in the room. It's in you. You are the shift the field was waiting for. If this message resonated, if you felt something stir or soften within you, then let this be more than a video. Let it be a signal chain. Subscribe to this frequency, not to follow a channel, but to stay coherent with this understanding. Each time you return, each time you breathe with us, you strengthen the collective field of awareness unfolding across the planet. You don't have to believe in miracles to become one. You only have to breathe consciously enough to notice that you already are. So, as we end, take one final slow inhale. Pause in gratitude for this moment, for this body, for this awareness. Then exhale, and let the breath carry these words out into the night. The message has found you because the field called your name, and now the field listens for your reply, encoded in breath, carried by stillness, transmitted as coherence. Until next time, stay in the space between. Breathe not to survive, but to remember. You are the bridge, you are the field, and the signal has been received.